Hi, my name is Brittany. I'm one of the 2 librarians for the Fresno County Public Library. I'm here to welcome you to our Summer at Your Library digital programs. Before we begin, I want to take this moment and encourage you to check out our summer webpage at fresnolibrary.org/summer. You will find more information about all the wonderful things our library has to offer you this summer, like more fun programs for kids, teens, and adults, take and make crafts for teens, and even a reading program for all ages. And you can win prizes. So make sure you don't miss out on all the fun this summer and visit fresnolibrary.org/summer and enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, my name is Jordan Noble. This is Aubrey Alfano. We are both youth empowerment specialists at Resources for Independence Central Valley, and we're going to be putting on a grounding techniques and mindfulness workshop for you guys. So I also want to let you know at the beginning start of this, grounding techniques are linked to lower heart rate and blood pressure, which can lower your risk of heart disease. So while it is not a cure for heart disease, it can help and give some improvements. So, okay, right here I have a tinyurl.com/RICVWW. And if you want to go to that link, it has all this information that I'm talking about in a document, so you are able to view it as you go. Okay, so before we get started, we're going to talk about some few things. Grounding is a term that is used to describe any techniques which are used to bring a person back into contact with their present moment. So there's different forms of sensory stimulation, smells and textures of things. These are commonly used, and grounding statements are also helpful. So before we begin, we're going to think about two different things. What habits do you engage in that increase your level of stress or anxiety in your life? And what habits do you participate in that decrease the level of stress or anxiety in your life? And so these are fun to think about, because then we're thinking, okay, this adds stress or anxiety. Maybe I should limit doing this behavior. This takes away stress and anxiety. How can I increase this type of behavior? So first, we're going to talk about what is grounding. And grounding is a set of simple strategies to detach from emotional pain. For example, maybe you're having cravings of some sort. If you're having self-harm impulses, anger, sadness, distraction works by focusing outward on the external world rather than inward towards yourself. You can also think of it as distraction, centering, a safe place, looking outward, or healthy detachment. So the next slide says, why use grounding? And we've got the ground here. We've got some trees, some clouds, and some rain happening. So when you're overwhelmed with emotional pain, you need a way to detach so you can gain control over your feelings and stay safe. So as long as you are grounding, you cannot possibly use substances or hurt yourself. Grounding anchors you to the present and to reality. Many people with PTSD and substance abuse struggle with either feeling too much, overwhelming emotions and memories, or too little. There's a numbing or dissociation. Dissociation is when you feel as though it is not happening to you, or you are not present for it. In grounding, you attain balance between the two. So you're conscious of reality and you're able to tolerate it. Next, we're going to talk about the guidelines for grounding. And again, still kind of like the same background with the ground going in a tree. We've got the sun, and the sun, or maybe it's the moon, and the moon is giving the tree some things. All right, so the guidelines are, the ways that we ground are a few different types of grounding. So before we're going to get into the ways, first we're going to talk about the different types, because These are the tools that you're going to be using. So the 3 types of grounding are physical, mental, and soothing. And we're going to talk about each different kind. So some of the guidelines are that grounding can be done anytime, any place, anywhere, and no one has to know. You can use grounding when you're faced with a trigger, having a flashback, when you're disassociating, having a substance craving, or when your emotional pain goes above 6 on a 0 to 10 scale. Grounding puts healthy distance between you and these negative feelings. So you definitely want to keep your eyes open. You want to scan the room and turn on the light to stay in touch with the present. Okay, so this is mental grounding. So here's a couple of different ways. If you see something that you like in here, the tiny URL that I presented earlier, if you open up that URL, you'll have way more information as far as different mental grounding techniques. But here's just a few. The first one is describing your environment in detail. For example, the walls are white. There are 5 pink chairs. There is a wooden bookshelf against the wall. You could also say a safety statement. My name is, insert your name here. I am safe right now. I am in the present, not the past. I am located in, say where you're located. The date is, say what the date is. These are important tools to use that will keep you in the present. You could also read something, saying each word to yourself, or read each letter backwards so that you focus on the letters and not just the meaning of the words. Another technique you could use is to use humor. Think of something funny to jolt yourself out of that mood if you're feeling something negative. Physical grounding. Physical grounding, one technique you could use is to run cool or warm water over your hands. You can grab tightly onto your chair. If you're sitting down in your chair and it has, arms on it, you can just grab them and squeeze it as hard as you can. You can touch various objects around you, a pen, keys, your clothing, the table. If there's walls near you, you can try all these things. This actually helps you. So if you're feeling anger about something happening to you, but then you take that anger into your hands and squeeze something near you that you're not going to hurt, that's not a human or an animal, and you just take that anger and you squeeze something, it almost feels like the anger that you had was transferred to the thing that you squeezed. So try it out. Okay, the next type of grounding is soothing grounding. So this type of grounding, you're going to say kind statements as if you were talking to a small child. Here's an example. You're a good person going through a hard time. You'll get through this. You could think of some of your favorites. Think of your favorite color, your favorite animal, season, food, time of the day, your favorite TV show. All of these things can pull you out of the negative feelings that you're having, where you're replacing it with something friendly or, that you want to be thinking about. Your favorite food, you're not going to be having negative feelings when you're thinking about your favorite food, because that's your favorite food. You're going to be thinking about the taste, what you feel like. Are you dancing when you eat it? Like, what happens to you when you are having that moment of eating something delicious? You could be asking yourself, well, I've tried some of these things and this doesn't work for me. Do you have any other suggestions? So if grounding doesn't work, my advice to you is to practice as often as possible, even when you don't need it, so that you know it by heart. So even on a day you're feeling great and happy, if you still practice some of those, if you did the mental soothing, the physical soothing, whatever you feel works for you, if you still implemented that on a day that you're not having hard times, it's like muscle memory. Then your body remembers how to do it the next time. Practice faster, so speeding up the pace that gets you focused on the outside world quickly. So we want to, almost rush through it to see how well we remember it. And then you could also try grounding for a long time. So you could stretch it out 20 to 30 minutes and repeat, repeat, repeat. So just keep doing it over and over again. And then another technique is try to notice whether you do better with physical or with mental grounding. Is there a particular type of grounding that works better for you? So now we're going to practice. So here's a picture here of maybe a lake or a pond, and it's got a purple flower floating on the top. And it has some examples here. It's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we're going to do 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. If for some reason you have a disability that doesn't allow you to do, maybe you're not able to feel stuff, or maybe you can't hear stuff, what we're going to do is if let's say you cannot hear stuff, let's take 3 things and then add it to something else that you can feel or that you can smell. And so we're basically replacing it with adding it to another sense that we are able to do. So 5 things you can see. I'm looking around my room. I see a fan. I see the trees outside. I see the shades. I've got a lamp over here. And where I am, there's a picture in the background. Those are 5 things I can see. 4 things I can feel. I can feel my hair. I can feel the smoothness of my glasses. My beanie has a different texture. And then what about my face? I just got a facial the other day and my face feels so smooth, smooth skin. I love it. 3 things you can hear. I installed wind chimes out of my window, and whenever the wind blows, I can hear them wind chiming. I hear the wind blowing because the plants are rustling. And I hear the low hum from my computer because the fan is running. 2 things I can smell. Right now, I just had my cleaning lady come to my house, so I definitely smell like a pine sol, that clean smelling stuff from different types of, what are they called? Cleaning materials. And another thing I can smell. You know what? I've got some cookies right here because I can't smell anything outside of the cleaning. So I'm going to take this cookie, smell it. Okay, we got caramel, chocolate, coconut, delicious, all kinds of different scents just from one cookie. And then finally, one thing I can taste. Do I want to go back to that cookie and try that? I think I do, but I got to keep talking. So, I'll just lick it real quick and taste it. How about that? And then I taste that coconut. All right. So I went through all the senses. I went through all the different things that I can do. And it definitely took me out of the moment. If I was having a thought or anything before I started doing this, I forgot what I was thinking about. So if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the Q&A and I will answer them for you. And now, I believe it is Aubrey's turn, so I will give her the floor.
Jordan said, my name is Aubrey Alfano, and I'm also with Resources for Independent Central Valley, and I'm also a youth empowerment specialist. And today I'm going to be talking about mindfulness. And in this photo, you do have a woman. She's wearing a white tank top. She's got her legs crossed and she's got her palms resting on her knees. And she is overlooking a very beautiful scene of a body of water that's looking at a very lush, mountainy landscape in the distance. All right, so now we've got just a little saying that I thought kind of wraps up mindfulness really well. And it says, in a world of doing, it's important to take a moment to just breathe, to just be. I don't know who said it, unfortunately, but I think it is a good reminder, especially in the world of technology and social media and deadlines and different things going on, that, maybe we turn the notifications off on our phone for a few minutes a day. We're doing things like that where we're not constantly feeling pulled or drawn away from just enjoying the moment. All right, so mindfulness, what is it? So before I get into sort of a rough definition of mindfulness, I'll describe the picture down below. And you've got two, little stick figures, we'll say, and one looks more like an adult and one looks more like a child, like a girl. And in the mind of the adult, there is a little thought bubble. And the thought bubble is just full of all sorts of different things going on that this person is thinking about as they're on a walk outside with these little flowers outside. And the little girl's thought bubble is simply just what's around outside, the flowers, the sun shining, instead of being all cluttered with all these things going on that aren't going on the spot, right? So the definition of mindfulness is a basic human ability to be fully present, aware of who we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what is going on around us. So I thought that picture kind of really showed perfectly what can happen when we do practice mindfulness and what happens when we let all these other things in our lives consume and take over our minds. All right, so why is mindfulness important, you might ask? There are many different studies that show it can help with reducing stress. It can enhance performance. You can gain insight and awareness through observing your own mind, and you can also increase your attention to others' well-being as well. We'll get into more of some of the dangers that stress can cause in someone's health, which we'll be talking about just now on this next slide coming up. All right, so here is a long list. Unfortunately, it's even longer, but this is just some of the top, tolls on the body that stress can take. And so that's why it's important to find ways to deal with that in a healthy way so it doesn't become a problem. Of course, stress can lead to headaches. Sometimes you'll hear people talk about getting migraines if they're stressed out. It can lead to upset stomachs, elevated blood pressure, chest pain, sleeping issues, arthritis issues, increasing depression and anxiety as well. All right, so how can we deal with stress and practice being mindful? There are a lot of different ways. There are different types of meditation that some people engage in, whether it's seated, whether it's walking or standing. Just taking those pauses in everyday life, doing things like deep breathing, again, sort of pausing, maybe turning off your notifications on your phone. That's a great way to pause all these things going on around you and just focusing on the moment, focusing on, say, a nice walk outside instead of constantly answering back text messages the whole time you're on the walk. Merging meditation with other activities such as yoga or other workouts can also be helpful as well and can be a good way to deal with, just bombardments in life that we can feel. At this point too, you can think to yourself what ways you might already practice mindfulness, or think about what ways you might like to try in your life to practice mindfulness as well. All right, so mindfully using your five senses. Jordan touched on this a bit when she was talking about, looking around you and finding things that you see, that you can touch, that you can smell. This goes into this even deeper with using mindfulness with your senses, right? So when you listen to your surroundings, the image, of course, too, let me describe, is a woman. She's also cross-legged. She's got her palms on her knees, and there's basically different bubbles that come off of her head. So they have one by her ear for listen, one by her eyes for look, one by her mouth for taste. Her smell goes to her nose, and then touch goes to her fingertips. So when you listen, when you're mindfully listening, you're listening to your surroundings without judgment, paying attention to things like the loudness, the pitch, the frequency, and just carefully observing that. Also taking into account looking and using sight, gently observing your surroundings without judgment, and observing colors, details, textures, taste, going into, everything that you eat, thinking about it, not just cramming it down your mouth, actually tasting and savoring the flavors and the textures of things you eat as well, and mindfully thinking about that, and slowly swallowing and chewing your food as well. Smell is also one of your senses, right? So taking that in could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, trying to, again, do this without judgment. And touch, the sensations, the textures that you feel on your fingertips. Again, too, like Jordan pointed out, if you don't have one of these senses, a lot of times it's going to mean that some of the other senses that you do have are going to be heightened. So just take a little more, time on those other senses to be mindful of those, even if you can't, for example, see or smell or hear, for example. Right, so here's an example of how you can practice mindfulness in your daily life. And so when you wake up in the morning, you can practice mindfulness in this way. You can start your day with a purpose. So when you wake up in the morning, you sit up, you're relaxed. You can just close your eyes and relax, connect with your relaxed body, whether you're seated, whether you're still laying down. You might just roll over in bed for a minute and just be kind of relaxed, in a relaxed state, and that is fine as well. You want to take 3 deep breaths, breathe in your nose and out your mouth. So we'll try that together. Let your breath settle in its own rhythm as you follow it in and out. When you are breathing in and out, notice the rise and fall of your chest and also your tummy as it contracts. And as you're doing these things and you're just sort of rolling around, getting ready for your day, think about your intention for the day and follow and revisit that intention through the day. Sometimes it's helpful to write it down to remember what it is. Sometimes people use apps on their phone, actually, where they have their intention so they can get reminders about it as well, whatever works for you. But we'll talk more about intention as well in the slides coming up. All right, so this next slide has a photo of a road. It looks like it's somewhere out, kind of in a desert landscape. And the road starts in big letters, big white letters, it says start. And then the road just continues on into the distance. And so the 10 ideas for setting daily intentions, these are ideas that you can use when you are forming your own intentions. There's many different intentions that you can use. So there's not one right or wrong one, but basically it's sort of finding a purpose. And these are some examples here of different types. So for example, you could stay focused on your to-do list for the day. You could remember and try to be present in the moment, stick up for your beliefs, listening to your intuition and letting it guide you, enjoying your creativity, being intentional and organized in your work, open to new possibilities without shutting down, and staying in your heart, not your head, prioritizing your matters, what matters most, and embracing change in all forms. Those are just a few examples of different intentions you may use or want to practice in your life. Okay, so intention, just going back to it as a concept, is like having a plan and trying to remind yourself of what's really important to you to try to improve or to try to remind yourself to do every day. And so, it can be something that you want to strengthen. It could be, something you want to do better to take care of yourself. It could have to do with self-care. And it can also be something that you want to improve to others, like being more compassionate to others, not just yourself. So there's a lot of examples of where it can lead. But, an example can be today, I will be kind to myself and compassionate to others. So that one's kind of actually combining a goal within yourself as well as something that's looking out towards your interaction with others. All right, so meditation. Okay, so meditation is a form of mindfulness, and in that, it is something that is a mental exercise. So it is something that can help people with stress and dealing with stress and anxiety. And it is to the mind what physical exercise is to the body. And usually people do it in a seated position, but certainly, again, you can do it standing, seated, or even walking. So there are different options for different people. Some people sitting might not be comfortable or might not be a possibility. So there are different ways to do it. But a lot of times commonly we see in the media, for example, people will have crossed legs and they'll have their hands on their palms, kind of like some of the photos that I showed. There are 3 modes of meditation. There's concentration, so focusing on a single object, observation, paying attention to whatever is predominant in your experience in the moment without allowing the attention to get stuck on a particular thing, and awareness is allowing awareness to remain present, undistracted, and not engaged with either focusing or observing. All right, so we're going to do a little practice of a basic meditation for beginners. And I like to think of everybody as a beginner when it comes to meditation. I don't think anyone's really a true expert. And if they are, well, I want to know the secrets of what they do. But we're going to practice something together that anyone can do. And it's a short guided meditation, just practicing something for 2 minutes. That can be another mistake, is sometimes people, if they're trying out meditation, they might try out a meditation that's 30 minutes long. And it's a long time if you're trying to do a guided meditation. So just doing a 2-minute meditation, for example, can be a good place to start. And then eventually you might work up your time and go a little bit longer each time. But when you start out, you definitely want to start out at a shorter amount of time. So finding and reaching mindfulness, bringing attention to your breath, and coming back to your breath if your attention wanders is really key with meditation. So you want to find yourself a comfortable spot to sit in, to stand, however you would like to do it. And you want to just be comfortable and be ready to try to be still for a few minutes. You want to try to focus on your breath with your attention on your inhale and your exhale. And you want to try to follow your breath for 2 minutes. So each time you breathe in deep in the nose, expand the belly, hold it, and out the mouth, slowly. And you want to feel, as you breathe in, you want to feel your stomach contract in and out as you release. And just follow that breath and do that for 2 minutes. You can even set a timer, and it can help you pause from your thoughts. And again, turn those notifications off your phone when you do this, please, because the last thing you want to do when you're trying to do a 2-minute meditation is you hear your phone ping about something. So you want to just turn that off so that way you won't be interrupted, and you want to just focus on breathing. And a lot of times when you do this, you'll notice your heart rate slows down at the end. If you were feeling jumpy about something before you started, a lot of times you might feel a lot more calm. And that's kind of the goal, is just sort of bringing you back down. So that way you can go about your day and feel refreshed and just a little bit more calm in general about whatever you have to handle during the day. I wrote down a few guided meditation sites that you can use if you're looking for guided meditation videos. Of course, YouTube, there are many that are on there, as well as mindful.org that you can access for free. There are also free apps for mindfulness. So if you want to, have reminders about meditating, maybe more guided videos for meditating, setting your intentions. Some of the free apps that I found were Insight Timer, Smiling Mind, My Life Meditation, UCLA Mindful, and Healthy Minds program. There are, of course, many that you do have to pay a fee, but these were some that I found for free. Thank you very much.